Right, this is going to be a video showing all of my 2-color commander decks. I've got 12 of them to go through, so this isn't going to be like a full deck tech or anything on each of them. Just going to kind of show each one and go through some of the main strategies and cards of each. So no particular order. We'll start with Pir and Toothy. So Pir says if one or more counters would be put on a permanent your team controls, that many +1 of each of those kinds of counters are put on that permanent instead. And then when you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Toothy. And when it leaves the battlefield, draw a card for each +1 counter on it. So it is a +1 counters deck. Well, it's a counters in general deck. So there is a lot of +1/+1 counters, but a lot of other fun types of counters as well. So just go through some of the cards. Vorl of the Hullclade was my first ever commander, but basically to start off with, we have some things that can double your counters on permanents. Primal Vigor, Deep Glow Skate, Doubling Season, Colonian Hydra, for example. Then we have some ways to win the game. For example, giving everything with +1/+1 counters unblockable, charging up something like a Darksteel Reactor or a Simic Ascendancy to win the game, which both just have a certain amount of counters on them, you win the game. And then a couple ways to get infinite turns with using counters, Magistrate Scepter and Sage of Hours. Tefari's Tutelage, it's in there because maybe you could mill somebody out. You do end up drawing a ton of cards with Toothy. And one of the reasons you draw a ton of cards is because the deck also plays a bunch of clone effects in order to just be able to kill Toothy while you make another Toothy. So Toothy gets a bunch of counters on it, play another one to copy it, sacrifice this one, draw a ton of cards. When this one has a bunch of counters on it, play the one from your command zone again, sacrifice this one, draw a ton of cards. So that is Pir and Toothy. Okay, on to the next one. Again, no particular order here. We'll go to blue-white, Errant and Giada. So this is just classic Timmy Commander, flying tribal, basically. So this lets you look at the top card of your deck and cast it if it has flying or flash. I might add flash at some point. There's not much, if any, flash going on here. So just start off with just a bunch of my favorite flying creatures. Fairy Artisan's really good. You're making the best creature that your opponents play. Serra Ascendant, we all know that one. Metamai the Ageless to get some extra turns. This Prognostic Sphinx just because it's signed. Mr. Steve Prescott. Watch of the Spheres makes all your flying stuff cheaper. Sword the Lawbringer, a bunch of Sphinxes that just draw a ton of cards and are pretty neat. Dragonlord, Ojutai, Dream Trawler. Sword of Temptation is a flyer that steals your opponent's creatures. Linvala used to be the commander of this deck. So it was still just a flying tribal, but I opened this out of a pack and thought, even more flying tribal. Luminarch Ascension's pretty good. This is kind of a combo. It's been a while since I've played much, so let me remind myself here. So Dovescape, whenever a player plays a non-creature spell, counter that spell, that player puts X +1/+1 white and blue bird creature tokens with flying into play. And then Guile says if a spell or ability you control would counter a spell, instead exile that spell, you may play that spell without playing its mana cost. So basically your opponents can't play non-creature spells because they would get countered, and then you would just take it with Guile, which would get countered as well, but you'd get the birds from Dovescape. So that's kind of fun. And then another good way to win is a couple of these effects. So these both say that creatures without flying or island walk can't attack. Good way to get the advantage there. Extra turn, I justify playing because it makes birds. Reparations, I don't know, just kind of a neat old white-blue card. Didn't have anywhere else to put it. And then just some neat cards I had. Render Silent, Shiny Time Wipe. And I do like to make these foil peels every now and then, so get another foil card off and use the oversized commander cards and peel the foil and put it onto another card just for fun. Alright, what do we have next? This is going to be a quick one, easy one. Oh no, this is a different one. Okay, this is a cool deck. I mean, a lot of people have a version similar to this. Maybe not these commanders, but it is basically an equipment Voltron deck. So I use Ardenn, right now at least, I use Ardenn and Jeska as my partner commanders. Ardenn lets you equip any number of auras and equipment you control to target permanent or player for free. And then Jeska basically just used to triple the damage from whoever you've loaded up all of your equipment onto. So Jeska used to be Ruric, just because he's neat, 0 cost creature in Ardenn. So basically, we'll start off just some equipment support stuff. A couple of tutors for equipment. Sigarda's Aid lets you cast your equipment with flash and equip it for free. SRAM's going to draw you cards. You know, there's more in here, but just some good targets to load up with all your equipment. And Godo will find you equipment, and there's also a combo with Godo as well. So then you've got just all of your equipment. Throw in all your favorite axes and swords, boots, armor, Jidays. And I do have some of the good swords. I don't have all of them, like the really expensive ones, but I have been kind of slowly picking them up when I find a good deal on one of them. So Sword of Body and Mind, Sword of Dungeons and Dragons. It's not technically legal, but come on, it's a Sword of deck. You gotta let me have it. We've got Sword of Light and Shadow, Sword of Wealth and Power, Sword of Sinew and Steel. I don't know. I'm gonna say Sword of War and Peace, but correct me if I'm wrong there. This Godsend just helps you, just lets you exile something that it's attacked or blocked by. Embercleave, Argentum Armor. I guess I didn't pull it out to put it in the pile, but the combo with Godo is, of course, Helm of the Host. Right? Is that how that works? Whenever it attacks for the first time each turn, untap it, and after this, get an additional combat phase. So Helm of the Host says that at the start of your combat phase, make a copy of what it's equipped to. So keep making copies of Godo, keep attacking infinite combats. That's my equipment deck. What do we have next? Okay, we've got a lot of Dimir decks to go through, so we'll get one out of the way here. This one's pretty quick, not much that I'll be showing you, but it's Phenax, God of Deception. So this is a mill deck. Basically, it's a god, so it's indestructible. It's a creature if you have enough devotion. But what it gives you, all of your creatures, the ability to tap to mill a player equal to its toughness. So it's got a lot of little walls and, you know, low power, high toughness creatures. Just keep milling your opponents. So it has some things like Intruder Alarm. My Intruder Alarm's in another deck. Who knows where that is? Probably Azami. But that just lets all on creatures untap whenever a creature comes into play. So now you're milling a ton. Dramatic Reversal does a similar thing, especially if you throw it on Isochron Scepter. All of a sudden you're going infinite if you have a few mana rocks on a Dramatic Reversal on an Isochron Scepter. Mill out the whole table. And then some of the neater cards, Tree of Perdition, a 0/13 that can exchange its toughness with someone's life total. So say someone's still at 40, exchange their toughness for 13. Now this is a 0/40. You can start milling people for 40 at a time. So that deck, it's just got a, you know, a bunch of those. It's a pretty casual deck. There's a couple things that make it run really well, but for the most part, you're playing walls. You're slowly milling people out. It's not the strongest strategy. There's a bunch of cards like Consuming Aberration, which get buffs in their stats the more cards are in graveyards. So it also mills people at the same time, but it gets bigger and bigger the more cards are in graveyards. So you tap it to mill someone, it gets bigger. You can tap the next turn to mill them for more. It gets bigger quicker. Play some graveyard hate in a mill deck, you know. People like to use their graveyards. You're going to need something against it. So this is probably the best card in the deck, is Eater of the Dead. So it's a 3/4 for 5 mana. Take one creature from any graveyard and remove it from the game. Untap Eater of the Dead. So you can tap it to mill someone for 4. As long as there's a creature in the graveyard, you untap it, you tap it again to mill them for 4 more. As long as you can keep hitting creatures, and there you go. You're probably killing a couple people there. All right. What do we have next? We'll go. Probably alternate Dimir and not Dimir every time from now on. Okay, up next, Beledros Witherbloom. So this is a lands-based big mana deck. The goal is to just generate a ton of mana and play some big spells. So at the beginning is 7 mana. You're already going to have a bunch of mana going. Beginning your upkeep, create a 1/1 Black Pest. That's not the big thing. The big thing is pay 10 life, untap all lands you control. So it kind of doubles your mana. And that's going to be a big theme in this deck, because you're going to want to double your mana with Doubling Cube, make 4 times as much with your swamps if you can manage to get the ult off. I doubt I've ever done that. But just a lot of things to kind of double your mana and put a ton of lands into play. So basically, step 1, make a ton of mana, pay 10 life, you have a ton more mana. Now it is still kind of like a lands strategy, so there's some things like Azusa to let you play additional lands every turn, things like Crucible of Worlds and Ruminant Excavator to let you play them from your graveyard again and again, which especially is good if you have something like Wasteland or Strip Mine. It's a little bit mean, but you can, let's say you have a Crucible and a Azusa, you can play your Wasteland or your Strip Mine 3 times from your graveyards per turn and just keep blowing up lands. So that's the mean way to shut down opponents. And then this deck has some cooler lands because it's a lands deck. Get your Ancient Tomb, your Field of the Dead, Cabal Coffers, and Urborg to make a ton of mana. So we made a ton of mana. What are we hoping to do? We're hoping to dump it all into something like Helix Pinnacle. Pay 100 mana into it over time, you win the game. Kamal's Druidic Vow to just vomit a bunch of your deck into play. Profane Command, it's not the best one of these versions, but you can just kill someone with it if you make enough mana. Exsanguinate and Torment of Hailfire are probably the best known versions of these big X spell finishers. Profane Transfusion, exchange life totals. It does. You do have to pay 10 life to untap all of your lands. So, and you can only do that once each turn, but you will get low on life, and maybe you can exchange life totals with someone and get them that way. And then Eternity Vessel, I think it's neat. So it enters with X charge counters on it equal to your life total, and then whenever you play a land, you can have your life total become the number of charge counters on Eternity Vessel. So before you get too low, you can have this enter, say it has 30 counters, and you're paying a bunch of life. You can just play a land and get that life back. So that is Beledros Witherbloom. What else do we have? All right. I said it'd alternate between Dimir and non-Dimir because I have an unusual number of Dimir decks. So up next we have the Scarab God. Another god. This one is a zombie tribal commander. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses X life and you scry X equal to the number of zombies you control. You can pay 4, exile target creature card from a graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. And then it has one of the god things. It's harder to kill. It returns to your hand if they kill it. So this is both a it's not exactly a mill deck. You're not really trying to kill them with mill, but it's a zombie tribal deck that uses a lot of mass mill. So I have some fun zombie tokens. There's my walker, and then I made these out of a Marvel comic book that was like Marvel zombies. So I just cut out some frames from the comic book and stuck them over zombie tokens. So that's kind of fun. Let's take a look at some of the cards. Rooftop Storm is one of the strongest cards in a zombie deck. You may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for zombie creature spells you cast. It's hard to argue there. Undead Alchemist. If a zombie you control deals damage to them, instead they mill that many. And then when a creature is put into an opponent's graveyard from their library, you exile it and you get a little zombie. So that's good too, especially with all the mass mill that's coming up right here, like Mind Grind. Pay 2 and X. Each opponent mills until they hit X lands. Another Consuming Aberration like from the other deck. You're just milling people, it's getting bigger. Fraying Sanity, everyone mills 14 cards. Traumatize, target player mills half their deck. So there's some mass mill just to get some options for the Scarab God's activated ability, for you to get some options to turn into zombies. And then just some zombie tribal stuff. Some of your favorite zombies, some of your favorite zombie support cards. And that's about it for that. The Scarab God. next for our non-Dimir deck, we have a bit of a stinker here. So this is Lavinia, Azorius Renegade. So that's 2 mana. Each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with converted mana cost greater than the number of lands that player controls. It just kind of slows down some people if they're ramping lands, or if they're ramping with non-lands. The important one, though, is whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. I'll show you why that's very important in a little while. This is a stax pillow fort hard lock deck. It's not much fun to play against. I've played against it before. Basically, you're starting with things to really slow down your opponents, not letting them untap, paying more for their cards, naming their commanders with stuff like Nevermore. There you go, you can't cast your commander. Stuff comes into play tapped, you can't untap it, you can't attack me unless you're paying for it. You can't attack me in general because I have a Peacekeeper. So yeah, you got to pay more for all your stuff. You got to, you can't activate your abilities, things like that. Winter Orb and Stasis, everyone's favorite cards, right? Slow them down until you can find. This is kind of the main point of the deck. You get Lavinia out, or these also work too. Teferi, Mage's Zhalfir, and Teferi Time Raveler will both also work with Knowledge Pool, the MVP of the deck. So Knowledge Pool is an interesting card. It says, when it enters the battlefield, each player exiles the top 3 cards of their library. Whenever a player casts a spell from their hand, that player exiles it. If they do, they may cast another non-land card exiled with Knowledge Pool without paying that card's mana cost. So, Lavinia says, if an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter it. Teferi, both Teferis say, each opponent can only cast spells as sorceries, not instants. So, all in all, any of these 3 cards combined with Knowledge Pool says that your opponents can't cast spells, and you can cast kind of any of the spells that are under Knowledge Pool. So that's the idea of that one. It's not much fun to play against. It's like I say, a bit of a jerk. What do we have next? Okay, we have 2 Dimir decks left and 3 non-Dimir. So I'll go to another non-Dimir just to break it up a little bit. Another quick one. So this is Anje Falkenwrath or Anje Falkenwrath, however you want to say it. Pretty simple card on the commander. It's for 3 mana. It has haste. You can tap it to discard a card and draw a card. And whenever you discard a card, if it has madness, untap Anja. So most of the deck has madness. So the hope is that you play Anja and you can churn through pretty much, hopefully, like a 30-year deck per turn. And you are looking for, this is pretty much all the deck is made to do. You can play it as like a madness tribal, just discarding, casting your cards that you discarded, have some fun. But this is what it was supposed to do, is worldgorger dragon loop. So worldgorger dragon says, when it comes into play, remove all other permanents you control from the game, and when it leaves play, return the removed cards to play. So then you get a card like Animate Dead or Necromancy. These are enchantments that enchant something in your graveyard and bring it back. So how this works is, say, Worldgorger's in your graveyard, you animate dead to bring it back into play. When Worldgorger hits play, it exiles everything from play, including the animate dead. So then the Worldgorger dragon will die, and it leaves play, which means everything comes back into play, including the animate dead. You do that over and over again. That includes your lands. You can have a land that just deals 1 damage every time it comes into play. You can have infinite mana because all your lands are coming back in untapped. You can churn through your entire deck because Anje Falkenwrath is coming back in and out. And you could just... it also, if you have something that shuffles your deck back into your library, like one of the Eldrazi Titans or something, you could just lightning bolt someone's face every time. Every time this loop is going on, you're like, okay, draw my entire deck again, lightning bolt your face, shuffle everything back in, draw my whole deck again, lightning bolt your face. Anyways, it's a bit of a weird deck. I don't play it often because it's, you know, it's a one-trick pony. It's fun to do a couple of times, but there you go, Anje Falkenwrath. All right, 4 decks left, and we are going back to Dimir. I have a problem with Dimir. I like it. This one, everyone knows this deck, pretty much. You got Yuriko. This is kind of a ninja tribal deck. It's more, well, you'll see. It's like honorary ninjas, I think I called it at one point, because they're not actually ninjas until they are. You've got Yuriko, Commander Ninjutsu, a big mistake. Whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So, to start with, you want to get Yuriko out easily on turn 2. So you're going to play a cheap evasive creature. So you've got a whole bunch of like 1 mana, maybe 2 mana if it's got some extra benefits. Bunch of 1 mana flyers to basically play this turn 1, turn 2, swing with it, ninjutsu Yuriko in, and then you're off to the races there, drawing cards, dealing damage. The goal is to get to one of these cards. Maskwood Nexus, Arcane Adaptation, Conspiracy, and Xenograft. So the point of these cards is you can name a creature type, and all of your creatures are the type you chose. Well, some of them, Maskwood Nexus, for example, your creatures are just every creature type. Basically, you're turning all of your little 1/1 flyers into ninjas so that they will also trigger the Yuriko. This deck does also have a bunch of actual ninjas in it, but the hope is to turn everything that's not a ninja into a ninja, because there's way more of those and they're easy to hit with. So that's the main plan. There are some things like a fancy brainstorm I foil peeled as well, just for fun, because it's good to manipulate the top card of your deck, because when you draw that card and or put that card into your hand, you deal damage equal to each opponent, equal to its mana cost. So it's good to be able to manipulate the top card of your deck to hopefully hit something like Scion of Draco for 12 mana, or Draco for 16 mana. So basically, yeah, if I brainstorm, because Draco's in my hand right before a Yuriko hits you, this comes out, everyone's taking 16 damage. And then as a backup plan, there is a bit of a combo here. We've got Aetherflux Reservoir, Bolas's Citadel, and Sensei's Divining Top. I kind of justified playing this because Sensei's Divining Top is incredible with Yuriko anyways in the manipulating the top of your deck. Bolus Citadel is just crazy powerful. Aetherflux Reservoir probably is the only card that isn't great in the deck without the other two pieces, but there we go. There's my Yuriko deck. Now this deck's real simple, so I'm not going to have a ton to say about it, but it's Gruul Stompy. How much more simple can you get? You got Ruric Thar as the current commander, but it changes because it's just Gruul Stompy. You play giant creatures, you ramp into bigger creatures. That's the idea. I'll read him. Not that he's great, but it doesn't matter too much what your commander is. Xanagos, for example, is another option. It's a 6-mana 6/6. Attacks each turn if able, and whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Ruric Thar deals 6 damage to them. So it's better to play creatures than non-creatures. It might become obvious, I don't know how much I'm showing it here, but it was another deck. This probably plays more non-creatures than Ruric Thar should, but as long as you're hitting people with big creatures, their 6 damage from non-creatures will add up faster than yours will. But basically, play, I don't know, whatever big beaters you have on hand. It's just fun. It's just Gruul. You're smacking people with big stuff. That's the whole point of the deck. And you're doubling damage with unnatural growth, gratuitous violence, things like Pathbreaker, Ibex, Overwhelming Stampede, whatever that's called, Dictate of the Gods, I think, something like that. This is kind of a neat card. I just play it because it's neat. It's not that good or anything. With 4 mana and X, all creatures get +X, -X until end of turn. It's pretty decent. You can use it as a really, really expensive board wipe if you have to, or you can buff up your stuff to go for the kill. But I don't know, old foils are just beautiful, right? Lurking Predators, good stuff. And then just some things I like. My only irregular Soul Ring, you know, not one of the ones from like a pre-con or something. So there we go. Ruric Thar, like I say, super simple. Gruul Stompy. As you can tell, it was Jeska and Ardenn, and before it was Ruric Thar. Second last deck here, back to Dimir. This is it's a combo deck. It was my favorite deck for a while. This was a long time ago. We have Oona, Queen of the Fae. Now it started off as a fairy tribal deck for me, but once I learned how Oona really works, this was back when I started playing. It quickly became an infinite mana combo deck where the point... Okay, so I'll start by reading Oona. It's expensive. It's 6 mana. It's a flying 5/5. But it has pay X and a blue or black. Choose a color. Target opponent removes the top X cards of their library from the game. For each card of the chosen color removed this way, put a +1/+1 blue and black fairy rogue creature token with flying into play. So if you have infinite mana, pay 99 plus 1 blue or 1 black to exile someone's entire library. You might get some fairies too, but that's not important when they're dead. So the goal of the deck pretty much is to make infinite mana and kill everybody with that. You also have, I mean, this is back when I kind of made this. It was probably already sort of a fringe EDH, like it wasn't that great anymore, but I kind of tried to make it as or CEDH, I mean, as sort of competitive as possible. So eventually it ended up with like Consultation, Thassa's Oracle, I suppose the Vault, Ad Nauseam, a bunch of tutors, my copy of Necropotence, and then so like Grand Architect and Pili Pala is one way to make infinite mana. Rings of Bright Hearth with one of your better mana rocks that tap for a bunch of mana is also a great way to, like, so one of the monoliths basically. You can tap this for 3. You pay 3 to untap it, and then you pay 2 to copy the untap, which in between you tap it for another 3, pay 2 more to untap it. There you go, infinite mana. It's got all my best mana rocks in it because it was kind of my pet deck for a while. That, you know, I don't have the really good free counter magic, so got things like Pact of Negation. Does have my copy of Mana Drain in it. Isochron Scepter with Dramatic Reversal on it's another way to make infinite mana. Laboratory Maniac goes with the Thassa Consultation sort of thing. And Tutors and Tutor Hate. That is Oona, Queen of the Fae. Started life as an innocent fairy tribal deck and ended as an abomination. And then the last deck I've got for today is an EDH deck. It is Brudiclad, Telcor Engineer. So what this says is creature tokens you control have haste. At the beginning of your combat, you create a 2/1 mirror artifact token. And then you may choose a token you control. If you do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token. So you got 2 goals in this deck. You want to make a bunch of tiny little tokens that are easy and cheap to make, and then you want to make at least one really cool token that you're then going to turn all of your treasure tokens or what have you into some big crazy thing. So start off with like some ways to make a ton of little tokens for, you know, relatively cheap. I mean, some of these are ones I'm showing are more expensive, but it's like, you know, pay 7 mana, you get 4 tokens, you know. So basically make a ton of little tokens all at once kind of thing is my goal. And then use something to either make a really cool token by just, I don't know, making a 10/10 Eldrazi token or something, or attaching something like mechanized production or using prototype portal. You can make a token copy of something that you already have. So let's say I imprint a Mere Battlesphere on my prototype portal, then I can make a copy of Mere Battlesphere. It makes a bunch of little mirrors, and then Brudiclad turns them all into Mere Battlespheres, which make a ton of more. Oh, well, I guess they wouldn't enter the battle. Bad example, but you get what I'm saying. Make a bunch of little tokens. Use a Desolation Twin to get a 10/10 color Eldrazi, and then turn all of your treasures into 10/10 Eldrazi's. Is kind of the idea. And then, yeah, I don't know. I've got all of the mages in here that I, you know, search for an artifact with 6 or more, search for an artifact with 1 or less, search for one with 3, search for one with 2. Just find your artifacts. Duretti, Scrap Savant, good artifact card, and that's in here because I made a foil peel of a Duretti Scrap Trawler. There we go. Well, thanks for watching. This is a long video if you made it this far. Thanks for sticking around. That's all of my 2-color decks. I know it's been about a year since I did another video like this, so I don't know, maybe someday. I've got a bunch of 3-color decks, a few 4 and 5-color decks, and even a bunch of decks for other formats and things like that, Pauper EDH. So who knows? Kind of fun to make. Maybe I'll make some more someday. Cool. Peace.